Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Thursday's Theology. My name is Jeff, and I'm your host, and I have my wonderful wife, Chrissy, with me.
Hello, hello.
We are here to discuss one of the most creepy Christmas things I have ever seen in my life, and that is Elf on a Shelf.
Oh my gosh.
Elf on a Shelf. It is the creepiest thing ever. I just can't. Like, it... Ugh, just... Yeah.
Didn't someone try to give us one, like...
Oh, yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, so long story short, what happened was somebody gave us an Elf on a Shelf for our first Christmas together as, you know, just a nice, like, housewarming gift or whatever. And it literally, like, sat in our storage area, and we did not look at it because it gave me the creeps.
I'm pretty sure I, like, shoved it in a box and, like, hid it somewhere. I'm sorry, whoever gave that to us, but
yeah, we
like,
know.
creeps me out. Those eyes are just, like, piercing into your soul.
We know you meant well, whoever gave that to us, but never ever give us such a creepy present again. It will end up in the incinerator. Yeah, Elf on the Shelf is just really, really, really creepy. And the whole point of Elf on a Shelf, from what I understand, is that it sits on a shelf and it basically watches kids to make sure they're being nice so that they can report to Santa whether or not they deserve presents or not, right? Is that the general idea?
I think so.
Okay. So
yeah.
it's just a tactic to get kids to behave, right?
I mean, basically, like, I think it comes also, like, with this whole idea from, like, that Christmas song, like, Santa Claus, like, he sees you when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake, like, he knows if even bad or good. So we can, for goodness sake, like, I think it's in that same strain of, like, trying to get kids to behave well all year using Christmas presents kind of
as an incentive.
Yeah.
Which is, like, terrible.
Kind of weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally understand it. Like, for some, that might actually help. But at the same time, like, this might be, like, jumping ahead or getting to this too soon, but, like, if you take it to theology, like, I think it actually, like, is kind of a microcosm of, like, deeper meritocracy that's, like, embedded in Christian theology.
Okay, let's pause there. Let's break that down a little bit. So, what you're saying is that the Elf on the Shelf, if we take it to the realm of theology, it actually represents kind of a negative and toxic theology of meritocracy.
Yes.
Okay. So, before we jump into that, can you define for us what your definition of meritocracy is?
I mean, it's basically just, like, a system of, like, do good to get good points, and if you, like, do bad things, that earns you bad points. Like, yeah, like, your level of faith, or, like, how, like, where you stand as a Christian is based on merit.
Right.
And, I mean, I think, like, there's a lot of meritocracy just, like, in Christian and American culture of,
right.
like, you get what you earn. Or,
right. Go to church every Sunday, go to youth group every week, study your Bible every day, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I definitely agree, because I think that one of the toxic side effects of living in an American consumeristic culture is that you, like, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, you basically earn your way, and that has spilled over into our understanding of God and the church, where we have to earn our way in, we have to earn our keep, we have to earn our foot, like, we have to put our foot in the door, and, like, we have to come in, you know? And it's really, really toxic, because that's completely antithetical to the gospel message, because the gospel message is that Christ died on the cross because you didn't deserve it, because you couldn't earn it, because you couldn't live that perfect life, you know?
Yeah, so I see it, like, kind of, like, in two ways where it has some pretty negative effects. Mm-hmm. One being, like, the thought of, like, good things come to good people and bad things come to bad people. Mm-hmm. Like, that's really toxic, because sometimes bad things just happen. And that shouldn't be, like, then put as a marker of your lack of faith. If something bad happens to you, or if you're in pain and that pain doesn't go away, or if you're struggling with something and that doesn't go away. Like, that shouldn't be, like, marker of, like, oh, you just don't have enough faith.
Right.
Or you did something to disappoint God, so now you're being punished. Like, that's just, oh my gosh, that's just painful.
Which is funny because we're playing through Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and, like, a lot of the people that you interact with are talking about, like, oh, my crops failed because the gods are angry, or I can't go sailing today because Poseidon is angry, you know, and it's that very cause and effect thought of, like, I did something to anger the gods, or in this case, when we're talking about theology, we did something to anger God, so therefore God is punishing us, God is throwing, like, hailstones and fire and stuff like that down at us to punish us for whatever we did wrong. Mm-hmm. And that's just really, wow. That's
yeah, that's, like, one aspect. And then the other is what you were also talking about before, the whole thing of, like, the point of, like, salvation, or even the Christian faith, was, like, the gift of grace. And so, like, that just throws meritocracy out the window. Like, it's not something that we can earn. Like, Jesus was, like, a free gift from God.
Right.
And so, like, I think the importance of grace needs to be highlighted so much more. But then, like, circling back to what this episode's even about, like, how do you teach that to children? The Elf on the Shelf, I feel like, does not really do that. Right. It keeps you, like, kind of, like, scared about how you act and not wanting to make missteps and walking on eggshells.
Right. And then just feeling extreme guilt and shame when you do mess up.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
And I do want to pause and say, though, that, like, kids do need to learn discipline. Kids do need to learn how to, like, interact well with one another and stuff like that. But I think what we're saying more so is that the Elf on the Shelf is kind of a negative reinforcement of that. Because, like, I've seen kids who are acting out and acting up, and their parents basically say, like, if you do this, then we'll go get ice cream, or you can have 10 more minutes on the screen, or whatever it may be. So there's, like, a reward system that does work for disciplinary reasons. But I think that if we take that over to our understanding of who God is, then that can produce some really, really toxic side effects.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I feel like, too, when the whole thing is, like, incentives, and then, like, behavior is based on whether you give that incentive or take it away. Like, I feel like there's a missing aspect of, like, when negative behavior is done or something bad is done, especially if it's harmful to, like, another person or hurtful, and all you do is take away the incentive, that doesn't actually, like, teach your child to pause and, like, recognize what they did and how they might have harmed another person. All they're focused on is that you are now the bad guy because you're taking away this incentive that you had placed in front of them.
And then it also reinforces the individualization of that act, because, like, I have to act good so I can be rewarded.
Yeah.
So it's not even like, oh, my harmful actions harm somebody else. It's like, my harmful actions means that I can't get what I want.
Yeah. And, like, even good actions, it's like, it's not like being a good kid. Like, it's not even about going the measure and, like, just being good. It's like, I have to, like, behave and, like, just not do anything really, and then hopefully I'll still get my reward.
Right. Which is...
like, that's just kind of weird. Like, it feels just really restrictive.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And maybe not the best attitude to develop in children.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. So, the final verdict, if I'm reading this correctly, Elf on the Shelf, still creepy AF.
Yes.
Still creepy AF. Oh my gosh. Never get one for our kids. Never get one for anybody else's kids. I hate Elf on the Shelf. Yeah,
sorry, that's a hard pass for me.
Hard pass. Hard pass. So thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Thursday's Theology. Linked below is a link to our podcast where we're going to be talking at greater length about stuff like this, because we have lots of thoughts and opinions about Christmas and Christians and how it all fits together. So check that out, and yeah, we'd appreciate the support there. As always, my name is Jeff. I'm your host. Thanks for joining us. This is Thursday's Theology. And remember, theology doesn't always have to be difficult. It is simply the study of who God is. Take care. We'll see you next week.